What's up, guys? Back with another Smite meta update. Not much has changed, like, drastically. There's still some changes that are worth noting. But as per usual, we're going to start with dual lane hunters and end with solo laners. And the first person I want to talk about is Chernobog. Chernobog is still very, very strong. He has been for the last few patches. He's got decent lane pressure. He's got really good global rotation ability. If you're trying to impact the map in ranked, Chernobog would be a very good way to do it. Jing Wei is also still kind of big in ranked. She does well. She's super safe, and you can kind of just run away. Her late game is very good. A pick for higher to mid-level ranks that I hesitated to mention in the last video because she was on the rise, but it's very... Freya can go one of two ways. You either get your pockets ran and shit stomped the entire game, or you do that to the other team. If you're good with Freya or confident in your Freya, you could definitely start running her in duo or in mid, and she can work because of her damage is ridiculous. It's always been ridiculous, and slight tweaks to Freya always make her good, and a slight tweak happened, and now she's really, really good. So, if you're good at her or comfortable with her, I would look to pick her up. Otherwise, Oleron is a pretty safe pick as well. Less so in the lower ranks, he can't do as much, but in higher ranks, a good Sanctified Field, like a player who's good enough to put down a good Sanctified Field is going to impact the game incredibly well. Lastly, I do want to mention Rama. Rama is on the rise. He's been being played a decent amount in high-level ranked games, and he's been winning. He does a lot of damage. He's decently safe, and being able to go up into the sky and impact a fight when you're really far away is very good as well. He's on the rise. We'll keep an eye on him and see how well he's going to continue to do. Supports. Supports are still kind of in a bad spot. They have nothing to farm really on the map. As previously stated, Ares is always going to be good in ranked because if you're good with him, you can run a game as Ares. He will always be good in ranked because of this. So I'm going to mention him. Another support that's kind of seen a rise again is Atlas. Atlas has a lot of pressure, and his ultimate is very, very powerful. He has good CC, and just the ability to be super, super tanky in the late game. He can impact the map in ways with quick rotations, cleansing slows off of people, decent damage, and overall he's pretty good right now. Kumbhakarna has kind of made a rise as of recently. I mentioned him in the last video, I believe, and he's pretty decent. I wouldn't call him like the cream of the crop best supports to hard carry a game, but he's definitely good, and he can help your team win a game very easily. He has very good get off me tools and get off my carries tools. He has good CC. His lane pressure is pretty decent, and as long as your teammates don't wake them up from the mez, you're kind of golden early and late game. And Epic Uppercut is good all points of the game with a short cooldown and stuff. Umoja has the same potential as Ares to be super good if you are super good with her. She can kind of run games because of how she's skill-based. She's very skill-based because you can just spam the one on Umoja and put up walls and just be good, right? But using the rings, using the heals properly, using her properly can really dictate a game. So if you're a support trying to grind ranked, get good at Umoja and then start playing her in ranked. She will win you games. I will mention that Horus has kind of seen a rise back up. He's okay. He's not amazing. But Horus ult and Horus heal are very good tools in the late game, and the prot shred you have on us too is very good, and he has an Naga. Character's pretty decent. He can play very aggressively, and he's pretty safe. Now, mid lane, let's actually talk about the hunters first. Chiron, AMC, and Uller look very good in mid lane right now, especially in ranked, because they kind of have a ton of pressure and can just push lanes. Uller has the same kill pressure as he always does. He hits an axe and he can half health you, and late game he can just one-shot you. AMC has really good clear, and Stinger's just an absurd ability with how much it gives you and the refresh cooldown. And Chiron is kind of just a safe pick that does a lot of damage late game. Chernobog has also seen a bit of a rise in the mid lane, but he's not as good as the other three I mentioned before. In terms of mages, Yu Huang, if you're not playing Yu Huang yet, what are you doing? The buff they gave him most recently is actually an insane buff, and he can run games super easily. Get good with the push on his ultimate, and you are going to be having huge impacts with this character. This character can run games very easily from the mid lane. Another pick that's kind of stayed relevant despite its very large weaknesses is Poseidon. The problem with Poseidon is if they buy Aegis and you can't burn those Aegis by other means, Kraken, Poseidon's kind of worthless. Kraken is his main tool in team fights, but he's been playing 2 roles as of late, mid and solo, and he's very fast with the Doom Orb, Karen's Coin, Toxic Blade build. He kind of just runs around very quickly and can get away. He's definitely someone you shouldn't write off as a mid laner. This is kind of a prediction. This was before the SPL games on Sunday, but Kukulkan is going to be good. People going the book build again means Kukulkan's going to go back up. People buying Poly again, Kukulkan's going to go back up. All of his items are coming back into the meta, and I would be surprised if he doesn't come back up. He does a ton of damage. He's super safe. You drop a tornado at your feet, you press your 2, and his ultimate is great secure and great kill. Great kill pressure. He's just all around very good right now. I think very good right now, and he's going to be showing up again. I guarantee it. Other than that, I guess some honorable mentions would be the Morgan, because if you're good at her, you can kind of run games. Baba Yaga is good because stacking is good. If stacking is good, Baba Yaga could be good. And even independent of stacking, she's very strong. She does a lot of damage, but in the early game, she can kind of get ran at. If you make it to that late game, even or ahead, you're going to be very, very powerful. Junglers. I would go to this tab, but the Warriors are back. Gilgamesh is currently not in the game. However, I do believe he would be being played if he was in the game. Osiris and Erlang are the big 2 right now that are the big warrior jungles. They both go Golden Blade, and they feel really good. They have lots of gank potential, good CC, although Erlang has been hurt a lot with the knockup being removed. They have good CC, whether it be slows or their pin, whatever it may be. Osiris has really good backline dive, and so does Erlang Shen. Erlang Shen has a ton of engage as well, and some good safety. Someone who's been on the rise, which is kind of surprising, but also kind of not, is Vamana. Vamana has been seeing a rise in play in jungle because of the carries that are on the other team, typically. If you could stick to a carry very well as Vamana, someone like Oleron gets bodied by Vamana because of his ultimate. Granted, Cursed Ankh is still your greatest weakness. They buy Cursed Ankh and you're healing them and they're blowing you back. Early to mid-game, though, you can kind of pick up a lead and kind of just stomp with it. Vamana is a pick you shouldn't overlook right now. He's definitely pretty decent, although there are certain places where he's not going to be as good. I do believe Gilgamesh would be in this discussion if he was in the game currently, because he has very similar functionality to these 2 warriors, Osiris and Erlang Shen. Good CC, good damage, and can build tanky. All right. In terms of assassins, Robin has made a bit of a rise, but that's also because in solo lane, he's kind of a flex pick right now. But Robin has been doing very well. Even when you build him full damage, you could blow people up. Kali. Kali's the late game hyper carry she's always been, and she's very, very oppressive. All of her items are really good right now. The Golden Blade for the early farm, getting the Oboe for even quicker clear. Kin size, really good. Executioner, very good. Kali can run games very quickly if she's given even a little bit of a lead, or if she's let into the late game without much of repercussions. Similarly, Mercury, his items are very good, crit is very good, and he can run games very, very well. His unique ganking style allows him to kind of open up new avenues that other junglers don't have. The gank behind the tower, where you walk up from lane and then you ult into the lane. He is very powerful right now. I actually have switched over to banning Mercury because of how annoying he is. Bakasura is a decent pick right now. However, I do think he's a little bit less so than the other one. Oh, I forgot Nemesis. Nemesis is very similar to Mercury and Kali in that her items... You could build pretty much anything on Nemesis and it'd be good. But Nemesis is prot shred and her items are very, very good right now. She has good clear, good pressure. She does very, very well. Anyway, Bakasura is very powerful right now, because his items are very powerful. I would say he's a step down from the ones I mentioned before, but he's still very strong and can kind of run away with a game similar to a Kali if he gets a lead. But I would say, again, he's a little bit lower than the rest of them. Lastly, for solo lane, I will mention before, like I said before, Poseidon has kind of made a bit of a resurgence because he can kind of just run away from everything. You can get picked on very easily as Poseidon, but you can also play it pretty safe once you get a couple items. I'm just mentioning him because he is kind of a cheese pick. A lot of solo laners won't start with Aegis, so you can kill them early on. However, I think the biggest thing is that she's back. Artio is definitely back in the meta now because of the conduit gen changes. She has better clear early, she has decent buff clear, and she's still Artio late game. She's still super, super annoying. She likes the Breastplate of Valor, the Genji's Guard, the Spectral, the Oni Hunters, whatever it may be. The Warlocks build works pretty well on her, where you go Conduit into Warlocks into your defensive item. She feels very, very good with it. So does Sobek. We haven't seen Sobek in solo in a while, but he does pretty well there right now with the same build as Artio, really. He's safe into a lot of matchups. If he loses his blue, it's not the biggest deal in the world because you do have your ult, which restores mana. And late game, he's a really annoying threat when he has a lot of farm. Something I'm kind of surprised about, but we should keep an eye on is Jormungandr. With the Conduit gem changes and the ability to build more damage with Warlock Staff and whatnot, Jormungandr, I think, is an underrated pick right now. Though he is susceptible to getting, like, picked on because of his passive and whatnot, his usual problems, but I definitely think you could start picking him up and playing him. Cthulhu. I'm just going to repeat myself. Annoying threat to kill late game. Conduit gem build, good, unga bunga. That's really it. Cthulhu does a similar thing to Artio right now. In terms of warriors, you're definitely still playing. You definitely can still get away with warriors in ranked. King Arthur has kind of fallen off a bit, but I still think he's powerful. He could do some of the same things that he has been doing. It's a little harder into some of the Guardian matchups, but he's still pretty strong. Osiris and Bellona, similarly, are doing the same thing they've always been doing, dominating lanes, poking out people, and being annoying to kill late game. Someone I think is underrated and needs to be looked at more is Shiva. With the recent changes to Glad Shield, Shiva has become a much more prevalent threat in the early and late game. He now has a decent amount of damage to actually kill people in the late game without being super squishy. Shiva can flex into multiple roles, but I feel like his best role right now is solo. He's high pressure with the Bluestone, and I like going into Sovereignty into Glad Shield, but you can go straight into Glad Shield. I would avoid the Soul Leader builds on him because he is still... I don't know, it doesn't really work well with him in my opinion. Otherwise, though, lastly, I do want to talk about Raven. The mitigations build, I believe I mentioned it last time in the last video, is really annoying to deal with. You build a bunch of mitigations, a bunch of health, and you have your 7% health shield that stacks 3 times to 21% health shield in the late game. You are very annoying to kill. You take forever to die. You heal a bunch, and you mitigate so much damage. The thing is, late game, super late game, he can kind of just be ignored. But in ranked, you're not going to get that far most of the time. So Raven is a very powerful pick to abuse. You should definitely be abusing him right now. You look at any of the Pro League games with like SOT or I believe Scary D played it recently. The builds they've been doing are very powerful. Haddix, you could build so many different things on Raven and still do the same thing. He is very strong right now, and he needs to be someone you have in your solo arsenal. Other than that, though, that's it. Peace.